Memfa Sadi ni Mahadio. Makacho say, yeah, we are not Sadi, I didn't even know my idea. So we'll help you appreciate it. So we want to look at population and space. Now, when we talk of population, we are talking about the total number of people living in a geographical area within a given time or a given period. For the emphasis of time is very, very important. So if you ask me of the population of this class, we are 20. As it stands now, it is 20. And the 20 is what we are referring to. You don't say the class is made up of 45 or 50 students, so that's the population. No, that's not it. Because the issue of time is of significance, it's of essence. So as it stands now, our population is 20. You understand? That is it. So the determinants and consequences of population distribution and change over the surface of the earth are fundamental to human geography. And you know that human population is not evenly distributed. There are other parts of the world that population is, or areas that are densely populated, whilst other parts are sparsely populated. That should tell you that the division or the distribution is not equal or evenly done. Now, often population change is linked to economic development, and whenever there's a changes in our population, several factors come into play, and one of them is economic development. Where there is economic development, there's a likelihood that it will attract a lot of people. The inverse is equally true. Education. Now, some of us, the first time we were even traveling from our villages, it was because we were going to secondary school. It was because we were going to the university. So education is also another factor that contributes to population change. The environment, the situation of the status of women. The status of women, we can talk about their childbearing status, or as their age increases. It has some form of links with the ability to conceive. Epidemics, outbreak of disease, and other health-related threats, and access to family planning and services. So these and many other reasons would account for the variation in population, be it increasing or decreasing. Some of these factors that we have outlined here will play a major role. Now, in the study of population, several scholars have made notable contribution to how the world population would end up affecting our limited resources. You know, economists will tell you that human wants are insatiable, but the resources to satisfy them, they are scarce. And that's the genesis of the study of economics. So likewise, as population increases, it has implications on the limited resources. So scholars like that of Aristotle cautioned that population could outstrip the subsistence base, leading to poverty and social discord. In the 18th century, a man called Reverend Thomas Malthus, the Malthusian population theory, also asserted, or he argued, that natural consequences of population growth are poverty and misery. The man of the view that population growth is as a result of what? Poverty and misery. He believes that as as population increases, it has the potential of making people poor and live a misery line, because population will eventually exceed food supply. In fact, he talks about the arithmetic proof and the geometric increase. We compare food production and the rate at which people were giving birth. When he made this assertion so many years ago, and it is believed that he, being a reverend minister and being invited into people's home day in, day out, or on weekly basis to name people or name newborn children, out of that, he made that assertion that looking at the rate at which people are giving birth, a day will come, the population will outstrip food production, and it will lead to poverty and misery. But years later, some other scholars came and debunk his assertions, even though there's no way you study population without coming across Malthusian population theory, but other researchers have critiqued it, bringing the perspective as we go on, we may come across that. Now, in the 19th century, Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels rejected Malthusian view. They blame poverty not on the poor or on overpopulation, but the evils of social organization in capitalist countries. So whilst Reverend Thomas Malthus blamed poverty on population growth, these two gentlemen said no. Population increase will not result in poverty, or is not a cause of poverty, but rather the social evils of the capitalist economy or the evils of social organizations in capitalist countries. What does this mean? The evils of social organizations. So what are some of the evils of social organizations that these researchers talked about? Like a few people are amassing wealth for themselves, not spreading, not opening up the economy to take care of the teeming population, but fewer people want to amass the wealth for themselves, like what we are seeing in our part of the world. Fewer people keep on prospering, quote unquote, whilst the majority wallow in poverty. So for them, they did not believe in the fact that population growth will lead to poverty, but rather it is the evils of social organization in the capitalist country. You know, in the capitalist countries, the capitalist believes that development must be driven by individuals, unlike the Marxist socialist theorists who believe that development must be spearheaded by the state. The capitalist believes in individual empowerment to drive development and growth. So these theories, or they theorize that when resources are scarce, the hard times will provide the motivation to reduce family size. And to some extent, it makes sense that when times becomes hard, nobody will tell you that reduce the number of children you are dreaming to have. Another renowned researcher, Simeon, he stressed that increasing technical knowledge more than offset reduced resources caused by an expanding population. Another exponent of this thesis, Esther Husserl, said that population pressure drives agricultural development and teaches people the virtue of labor. So they also believe that when population increases, nobody will tell you that you need to farm or you need to work hard in order to feed your family. So they are not blaming poverty on just the increase in population, but they are, so which means that, allow population. If people want to give birth, let them give birth, because when population increases, it will force men to think otherwise, think outside the box in order to fend themselves. So this counter-Malthusian thesis has become what is known as the Copian thesis. But when you study resource perception and management, there are two theories that we talk about. One of them is the Copians. The Copians are of the view that whatever we get today, let's spend it. Tomorrow will take care of itself. You get that? Tomorrow will take care of itself. And there is one school of thought that also believes that no, if we don't put in place measures, if we don't manage our resources well, tomorrow we'll be in trouble. That is what the likes of Thomas Malthus and the others were postulating. But the latter day guys, they were the creativities. Let's enjoy. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Did not to strike help at all. So the Conocopian position had been adopted by Chinese leader called Mao Zedong. The Chinese communist leader rejected proposals to control China's population. So you see why today China is among the countries with the highest population. There was a time they had a leader by name Mao Zedong. That man said every stomach is attached with 2 hands. What does it mean? It means that from his perspective, if a stomach is attached with 2 hands, he doesn't see why you must be hungry. That's the bottom line. In fact, to some extent, I also don't believe in that. But you see, you may have two hands, but other factors that will come together to help you to reduce and take care of yourself might not be there. But he limited it to the fact that if every stomach is attached with two hands, then we should not care about what do you call it? What will be the outcome if population increases? Well, somebody has notified me that there are breakages. Perhaps it's the internet, so please forgive me if I say something you don't get it. Let me go. Okay. I hope you can flow with me. Can you hear me from wherever you are?
Yes, we can, sir.
Yes, it is. Okay.
Very good. Very good. Then please, the one who wrote the note, kindly check from your end and see. It could also be from your end. Kindly do that for us. Okay, let's go on. So several countries, including Ghana, are now subscribers to population control measures which support Malthusian thesis. China, for example, has restricted voluntary and compulsory population control measures. So after Mao Zedong's departure from office, now the world is paying attention to the rate at which population is increasing, which means they are now going back to what Thomas Malthus said so many years ago. I think the last article it was around 1778. That's why our literature here has captured the 18th century. So around that time, the man made that projection. And today the world is going back to what he said, including even the Chinese. They are now putting in place measures to control population. In fact, some governments, such as the Soviet Union, now Russia, rewarded mothers who bore large numbers of children. Today, the debate about overpopulation continues. From doomsday heresy, which is the Malthusian, to the complicit unconcern. Homocopian thesis, you can also call them the complicit unconcern. They think like Galamseyers. You know, Galamsey people, they always think that any day they go to the side, they will make money, so they spend money. That's how the Homocopians think. Let's enjoy today, tomorrow will take care of itself. They don't care about what will happen tomorrow. So determinants of population change. So there are three key factors that determines whether population will increase or decrease. One of them is fertility. Number two, mortality. And then number three, migration. These are the three fundamental causes of that a rise or a decrease in population. So population size is largely determined by the quantity of resources exploited and its corresponding impact on the environment. Here, it measures the impact of man on its environment. These include the level of consumption of resources, the need for energy and other materials which depend on the distribution of resources and the level of technology available. So what are the current trends? Dr. Nafis Sadiq, the executive director of UN Population Fund, he said, driven by unprecedented growth in human numbers and wasteful consumption, many of the basic resources on which future generations will depend for their survival are being depleted. The executive director of UN Population Fund, he said that now, currently, population is driven by, or the world is being driven by unprecedented growth in population number. And I'm going to show you statistics and it will tell you the short pace with which the population is increasing. So the current population explosion combined with increasing consumption rate and inequitable distribution of resources is a serious environmental concern because it is directly related to the carrying capacity of the planet. Quite simply, there is a limited amount of resources being consumed by an increasing number of people. But you see, well, this is the field of population. But if we were doing resource perception and management, I think some of you will do it. Once you are in social science, you will do that course, a very nice course. In resource perception, we believe that what nature has given to man, it doesn't matter the population that will come. If we are not greedy, if we are not selfish, if we are not willing to amass more than we require, then what nature will provide, it doesn't matter how the population increases, we'll be able to take care of ourselves. But here is a case, some people, when you read the want doctrine, there is a theory called the want doctrine. There are some people, the more and more they apply certain kind of materials, the more happy or happier they become. So you go to their vicinity, one person on the compound, they have fleet of cars. Every year, once they launch car, they'll buy one. Meanwhile, you can't drive all the cars at the same time. That explains what the want doctrine talks about. And that is a contributing factor to why, as population increases, it seems the earth cannot provide or support the teeming population. But that is to the resource management class. But when we come to the population side, they are still making an awareness on really managing population in response to the limited resources that we have. So in 1992, far away in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, the world met we had an Earth Summit in 1992, and it was to address population growth and consumption issues. Later in Cairo, the International Conference on Population and Development, numerous issues came up, and that is what the world is aligning to. That one I leave them to you read on it on your own. So let's look at population, consumption, and the environment. And you see, I think there's even one of the topics that has it as population, consumption, and environmental nexus. The word nexus, N-E-U-X, like the link between these three. As population increases, it implies more mouths must be fed. And as more mouths are being fed, remember the implications on the environment. So these three variables, they are interconnected. They are interconnected. So what are some of the reasons for population growth? One of the main reasons world population has grown so rapidly over the last 200 years is that mortality rates have declined faster than fertility rate during this time. So what is mortality rate? The rate at which people die. Simple put. But if you are looking at it usually they use 1,000. 1 out of 1,000 in percentage wise, but in simple terms, mortality, we are looking at the rate at which people die. And then fertility, the rate at which we give birth or the ability to produce. So if the rate at which people die is lower than the rate at which people give birth or we add to our numbers, then obviously the population will increase. Again, there is an improved sanitation. Can you imagine? Healthcare, medicine, shelter, and nutrition have all led to dramatic increase in life expectancy. You might think these variables are not all that good, but no matter how you think, it is better. It is better in terms of if you are comparing it with death rate and birth rate, you clearly see that these variables have contributed enormously. So these are many more. These are not the only factors. Most encouragingly, the fertility rate in developing countries has declined over the past 43 years. Is it true? In our part of the world, they are saying that fertility rate has rather declined for the last 43 years. The average fertility rate in developing countries is now below the population replacement level. This progress is a result of advances in 4 critical areas, all of which must continue if the global population is to stabilize. Incomes of poor households must rise. Child mortality must decline. Educational and employment opportunities for women must increase. So you see, when these variables are achieved, then one way or the other, we may arrive at having equilibrium. Because if you're a career woman, do career women think of giving birth and even giving birth to more children? These days, that's the thinking. Many of our women, they won't go to school, they won't go to school, they won't go to school. You understand? So sometimes, even 30 plus, they are still not thinking of giving birth. Now our women also want to compete. They want to buy their own houses, they want to buy their own cars, they want to buy their own plane tickets. You understand? So when employment opportunity for women increases, like child mortality decreases, she increases. You see that gradually some form of equilibrium will be achieved. Now look at the table here. The first column talks about the size of the population. The second one talks about the year that the population was achieved, and then the difference between the years that it was achieved. So the world recorded its first 1 billion in 1804. Now, from 1804 to 1927, when the world recorded its second billion, it took us 123 years. Please, do you understand the table? You see the what do you call it? I don't know how to put it, but looking at the extreme end, you see the years of change from 0 to 123. Which is the difference between 1927 and 1804. It gives you 123. So from the first 1 billion to the second 1 billion, it took the world 123 years. Please, Williams, mute yourself. Williams, mute yourself, please. And then the third billion, that one too, it took us 33 years. So from 1927 to 1963, which is 33 years, another 1 billion. Then from 1960 to 1974, 14 years, another 1 billion was added. From 1974 to 1987, 13 years interval, another 1 billion was added. From 87 to 99, which is 12 years, another 1 billion was added. From 99 to 2011, which is another 12 years, another 1 billion was added. Now our current population is around 9 billion. Now you see that the years that it takes the word to add 1 billion keeps on dropping, which means as the years drops, the population is increasing. So it's inversely related. As the years drops, the world population is growing astronomically. What does it tell you? What are the implications on resources? What are the implications on health? What are the implications on sanitation? These are some of the issues you must be thinking. You understand accommodation, proper ventilation. And some families, it's like 6 people sleeping in one room. I mean, who does that? But that is the situation. So you must also take responsibility. So you can use the same thing to compare Ghana's population from 1921 to 1984. Okay, up to 2021. Now we are around 31 million Ghanaians, or the population. Let me also hasten to add, when we say population of Ghana, population of Ghana, it doesn't mean, and if you say it is 31 million, it doesn't mean all of us, all the 31 million are Ghanaians. That's why I said the definition takes into consideration time. So as of that time, somebody is asking of the current population. I said it's around 8.1, between 8 and 9 billion. As of the time that they were conducting the population census, all the people who were present, both Nigerians, Togolese, Germans, or everybody who was in the country by 10, they were all counted. And that gives us the 31 million we are talking about. It doesn't mean they are all Ghanaians. No. If you want to get, even though, yes, about 90+% are Ghanaians, that is true. Usually when we say the population of Ghana and we say it's 31 million, we are tempted to think they are all Ghanaians. Please, that is not it. If you want to get the true percentage of Ghanaians, there's a website called GhanaDistrict.org. At your leisure time, visit that site. You get all the even the one accent of the current population. You get the exact figure. Small letters, GhanaDistrict.org. O-R-G. Once you Google, it will take you straight to the population site. You see all the figures there for your consumption. So what are some of the reasons for population growth over the last 200 years? Two major factors. Mortality rates have declined faster than fertility rate. Number two, fertility rate in developing countries have declined over the past 43 years. So these are two major reasons. So what are the main features of the world population? What are the main features? What are the main features? What are the main? The world's population is not distributed evenly. I think I've said that already. Somebody is saying that in the early years there were many wars that created. Okay, that's another key contribution. Thank you for that. Now, the factors responsible for growth and pattern of distribution are concern of geographical inquiry, questions about why pattern and growth rate continue, and projection into the future are also important for our study. In general, the world's population is distributed over the available 30% of the total land surface. Remember, we said that 70% of the Earth's surface is occupied by water, which means we only have 30% for land, for what do you call it, built environment, agriculture, industries. We have limited size as compared to the sea, unless maybe through ingenuity and other form of creativity. We utilize water bodies to also build, as some people have tried to do. So growth rates are different, with the highest rate found in developing poorer countries in Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America. Can you imagine? We are poor, but these are areas where you see chunk of the population. The world population density. There are 5 areas. The largest population cluster, I talk of China, Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea, followed by India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. Then the third, Southeast Asia, which includes Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, Java, and the Philippines. The 2 remaining clusters are found in highly urbanized and more uniformly developed cities. Europe cluster encompasses much of Western and Central Europe, including England, Germany, France, the Netherlands, Belgium, and its neighbors. Can you imagine? These are areas that are well, of which if they had chunk of the world's population, it wouldn't have been used. But that is even where DS is limited. But the Bangladesh and those Taiwan, those areas that are not well developed, they are rather giving birth. And the North American cluster encompasses the Atlantic seaboard, the Great Lakes, including New York, Boston, Detroit, Chicago, and that of Toronto. By all these places, Africans and these Asians, they have even taken over those places. Okay, please do well to read on the other aspects. China's population. So by the late 1970s, after the death of Mao Zedong, anytime you hear who made that assertion that every stomach is attached with 2 hands, it is the Chinese leader or president called Mao Zedong. Keep that. One day it will be of importance to you, so keep it. So after his death, Chinese government officials adopted several policies. So those guys were poor. It was recently that technology helped Chinese and they have become a household name. They were also equally not doing well. So policies had to be put in place. One of them was only children were afforded preferential treatment in education, housing, and employment. Parents with only one child were rewarded with salary bonuses. Can you imagine? Those with two or more forfeited 10% of their salary. So if you're Chinese and you gave birth to two or more, and if you were earning 10,000 one or Ghana cedi, 10% will go. Then if you want to give birth to more children, no problem, that it is going to affect your salary. Couples who underwent sterilization, how do you know sterilization? Like making the eggs not being having the potency of forming the embryo. What else to go into medicine? Okay, that's sterilization. When the sperms are hypnotized, for want of better words, that they cannot be active to produce. Those people were keeping financial rewards, and then finally, in some areas, compulsory population control was reported, with women forced to undergo abortion or sterilization. So, what are the effects? There was a general preference for sons. So in China, there were preference for sons as compared to that of daughters. So what are the factors for population concentration? So natural factors, and we have cultural factors. So the natural factors include distribution of resources. So naturally, where population is dominated, it is believed that there is a natural resource such as a fertile land. So in Africa, for example, we talk of the areas around the Nile River. You know, those of you studied African history came across a mention was made of that of the Nile River, where agricultural activity started. No wonder a lot of people have settled there. Then we talk of environmental conditions, when the soil, terrain, climate, and how accessible the place is can also be a contributing factor for a population concentration in that area. And then hazard, when there are flood, earthquake, there are some places that are earthquake-prone zone. Makati Hills in Ghana is a classic example of an earthquake. Seismologists have made mention of that place as not being too conducive. There's a threat zone. So if people are not settling there, should tell you that. Then cultural factors, war. Somebody made that contribution earlier on. Then refugees, when people are forced out of their countries, it also affects the population around. Industrialization, urbanization, resettlement. In our part of the world, when people make money from the rural areas, they want to come and build in urban areas and enjoy. We behave like the crow. You know the crow, that black bird with that white color around the neck. That bird, it feeds from the village, but will never sleep in the village. So in the night, they come back to town. That's how some of our rural people, our rural folks, they behave. They stay in the rural areas, make the money, then they come to town to spend. I don't begrudge them because during from 24th to date, it is Accra. All the Rapaholic and whatever that you can think of, Accra Sports Stadium. It's not in my village. So if I have money and I want to enjoy, I will also come to the city. Okay. So what is the general pattern of the world's population? More than 50% live in rural areas. So if you're looking at the general pattern of the world's population, 50% of the world's population lives in rural areas. Regions with similar physical conditions have different densities due to different cultural groups or pattern of settlement. Okay. Almost 90% of all people live north of the equator and about 2/3 well in the middle latitudes between 20 and 60 degrees north. Oh, how I wish somebody would answer why 90% of the world's population lives in the north of the equator. Can somebody answer that question? Why? Assuming if I gave it to you as a quiz for 2 marks, what would you have written for that? Why is it that 90% of all people live in the north of the equator?
Sir,
Yes. It's you. Or you don't have an
So
answer
with
now. Okay, if you
the
don't have
reason
an
is
answer
that
now, then
the
I
reason
leave
is
it to
that
you.
um,
Uh-huh.
the reason
Hello.
is that if you look at the continent,
Yes,
about 60 something percent of the land are concentrated, or it's concentrated at the northern part of the equator. That is why
that's a
90%
perfect answer.
of it
That's a
is rural.
perfect score. That's a perfect score. That's a perfect score. Very good. A good student, which means you have been following the discussion from uh, physical geography and all the other dimensions. That's powerful. Okay. So if you didn't hear
Yes.
when we finish, please
68%.
contact him. That somebody Abba Dixon. Okay, Abba has even written that in our chat area. That's good. Abba, thank you very much. And the gentleman who also answered the question. Later, when we are struggling for 1 or 2 marks to make an A, remind me. I will look for that score and give it to you. Only a small land area is inhabited or inhabited. Over 50% of the people on 5% of land, 2/3 of the people on 10% of land, almost 9/10 or less than 20% of the land, and there are changes in concentration in the latitude. Low-lying areas preferred, but not all such places are favored by by high concentration. And then coastal areas are also preferred. But you see, all these areas that prefer, most of them, the only reason or the underlying reason is agriculture. Because every rational being, if you settle at a place, the first question you ask yourself, where will tomorrow's bread come from? How am I going to feed myself? So naturally, we believe that wherever there's population concentration, it means what drove or attracted the people to that place was the fact that they could farm around such areas. So what are some of the population terms? We have carrying capacity, census. Those ones, I leave them to you. If you read any of them, you don't understand, then you get back to me. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's all on population. Carrying capacity, census, completed fertility rate, crude death rate, general fertility rate, growth rate, infant mortality rate, life expectancy, lifespan, mobility, and mortality. These are concepts that we have explained everything here for you. And I don't think there's any of them that is beyond. However, if you come across anything and you don't get it, I'm always available. Just send me a message or call me. I'll take time and explain to you. Is there any question, please, on population? Is there any question? Hello, any question, please? I'm listening to you. Okay, that's fine. So if no, then let's look at the last one. We are in a Xmas season, so there are some of you, your chicken is ready and your rice is ready. You won't go and enjoy it. So I wouldn't waste much of your time. Just want to. And like I said, human geography is not difficult at all. So let's quickly look at the second aspect. Migration. You see, every human being, no matter where you are dreaming of traveling to one day, no matter, I don't want to mention any place on planet Earth. But you see, human beings are wired in such a way that if you stay at one place after a certain period, you become bored and you want to relocate. That's how human beings are wired. That is why the highest form of punishment is imprisonment when you are thrown into prison. The first time I visited prisoners, I wept. Some of them said they have stayed there 15 years, 17 years. I wept like a day old child because Even you and I, when we stay in our rooms with the DSTV, all the 257 channels, all the sound system, air conditioners, when you stay in your room for even 4 hours without talking to anybody, you feel bored and you close your door and you walk around. You want to see human beings. That is how we are wired. So in resource perception, we say that human beings, we are gregarious beings. We are always on the run. We want to move. So migration has always been part of human race. So when you even study the history of Ghana, you realize that some tribes say they travel from Nigeria, others from sometimes say I'm for to Akwan. So Akwan is part of human race. I am never against people traveling. I'll be the last person to be against somebody who wants to travel. If you want to travel and want to travel through a legitimate means, I will be the first person to hold your bag, go and escort you to the airport. Then I wish you well, because it is part of man. So if you are studying migration, you should understand it from that angle. Yes, somebody should have, you should understand it from that angle. So migration is the permanent or semi-permanent change of residence of an individual or a group of people. Elements of time and space are integral. Remember, like I talked about population, I said when you are defining population, time is of essence. Likewise, if you are defining population, migration, time and space are also a key issues you need to consider when defining migration. Now, a basic distinction is drawn between circulation and migration. So what is the difference between circulation and migration? Circulation involves repetitive reciprocal movement that begins and ends at a person's home. So if I am in Bebieni and I am going to Kumasi, that's not migration, because I am going to buy something and come back. So where you start, you come back, like you end. I don't know how to put it, but like you start from one destination, go to another place, and then you come back to your destination. That's circulation. That's not migration. You start from one end and you come back and end at where you started from. But migration, on the other hand, it is a permanent. So you see, if I'm moving from Bidiani to Kumasi, I'm not going to stay there. I'm not going to stay there. But when it comes to migration, you have the intention to either stay permanently or semi-permanent. You spend some days, you spend some months, you spend some years, then you go back. That is what we are talking about as migration. Okay. So it involves the change of location of a person's home. Mobility is a rather more general term than migration, covering all kinds of territorial movement of whatever distance, duration, or degree of permanence. So mobility is a rather more general. Mobility is more general than that of migration, covering all kinds of territorial movement of whatever distance, duration, or degree of permanence. And then at what scale? So when we say the migration or the mobility, at what scale? Is it permanent or temporary? Is it for a long stay or for a short stay? Is it voluntarily? Or people, you see, there are several reasons why people travel, or they were forced. Numbers involved. Is it an individual or a group? Like the Sokoto and the Fulani guys, you see them. These days, when you see them, those days, there is whole family walking along the road. They've covered several miles. So that, what is the scale at which the migration is taking place? And the scale touches so many variables. Okay. We also have what is called gross migration and net migration. Now, gross migration refers to all migration flows into and out of a given area, whilst net migration is the numerical difference between inflows and outflows, and migration and immigration. So when you talk of gross migration, that one we are just looking at the total move, all people into one place, not necessarily putting into consideration how many of them left and how many of them have been added. If you are looking at the difference between how many people left Ghana and how many people entered. That one gives you net migration. But if you are talking about how many people left Ghana, that one is gross. You are not interested in who comes. You are not looking at the differences. Then that one becomes the net migration. So migration has been enormously influential in determining cultural and social change at all scales. Studies have been on both empirical and theoretical aspects of the economic and social causes and consequences of migration, such as selectivity by age, sex, marital status, occupation, education, and stage in the life cycle. So in terms of age, the young people always want to travel. I know a man who won the US lottery and said he will not go. The children got offended that the man should process it so that if he will not even go cry, he should take them there. He said no, they should go to school. When they also win yes, then they go back. For him, he's not interested. I'm telling you. But you and I, once we get the opportunity to travel, we will not even tell any member of our family. By the time we realize we have gone, and then we start sending them WhatsApp messages. We've gotten there. So migration is a function of age bracket. That the youth always want to travel. We are about 50, 55, 60 years. Few of them. Because you can't go and stay in that temperate region. I will be able to go and you will run away. Yes. So, and then in terms of sex, is it between males and females? Which category travels more or want to travel more? I believe the male, because we are now to fear now there's a peer compared to my yet. So always men will be forced to travel. And so all the variables that are there, they influence migration. There's spatial pattern of flow and distance, including migration models, behavioral aspect of decision to migrate, geographical ramification involved in the characteristics of the place of origin, the intervening obstacle, the cost of moving. So when we talk of the characteristics of the place of origin and the place of destination, where you are migrating from, what are the conditions there? Are they favorable or there's an outbreak of war? Where you are going to, the place of destination, what is attracting you? That's the pull factors. So we shall look at pull and push factors. And these issues are put into consideration before you travel. The intervening obstacles. So if you are going, what is the means of mobility? Do you have a car on your own? Do you go by train? Do you go by ship? Those who travel to Ethiopia and they want to enter Europe, many people lose their lives. But the means is not right. Sometimes they meet armed robbers, animals who eat wild animals, even choose some of them. The intervening obstacles, the cost of moving. Do you have money to buy plane tickets? This and many other issues should come into the cost. The personal factors that affect the decision of whether to move or not. So migration together with fertility and mortality is a fundamental element determining population growth and structure in an area. I think we have talked about that. So what are some of the general causes of migration? Political and religious persecution. So when you go to northern Nigeria, a lot of people have fled from northern Nigeria because of this Boko Haram. Let me not even take you from Ghana, Boko, our friends and brothers in Boko. Now, Boko used to be a very busy town, a business town, now virtually empty. Now, if you see the videos that were circulating last 2-3 days, the whole town is dead. Daytime, but you're not seeing anyone. Why? Political, religious, issues. To also improve their economic status, people also travel because they know that other parts of the world have economic opportunities that can make their lives better. Some people also move in association with change in lifestyle. Some people also move when they get married. So the ladies here, once you get married, your husband may say, won't take you away. Some of you too, you have even gotten married, your husbands are living abroad. You are doing education on distance and you want to do marriage on distance. Me, I wouldn't want to do that. If you marry me and you are traveling, we have to travel together. If you marry me and you leave me here, then that one, there's no marriage. Yeah, I can't do education on distance and do marriage on distance. I won't do that. I will never support that. But it is part of life. Some people, they brag about that. Once I told you 20 years old, who need their friend and he's so happy. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Hey, there are some people like that. They are happy. I feel so, you know, my bro, more Boga sending me scan. Can you imagine? Marriage is not all about money. So those of you want to do that, retirement, childbirth, some of these things can also force people to migrate. So you can classify them under push and pull. So the push factors are those that encourage people to move away from their current homes. It includes racial discrimination, poverty, unemployment, religious persecution, natural disasters, wars, family problems, political events. They are okay, that's fine. These are push factors. Then we have what is called pull factors. What is attracting you to that place? It could be employment opportunities. It could be conducive climate. It could be recreational opportunities. Wow, so you want to be at places where you can enjoy health facilities, where people also want to go. Will I get hospitals, first class hospitals? And you see, some of these reasons account for why some of our doctors, when they are posted to the rural communities, they say they won't go. Network, maybe I don't know, network. And WhatsApp, you can have online lecture, so many things. So these and many more are the push and the pull factors. Then we have what is called internal migration. Throughout history, millions of persons have migrated across international boundaries. Example, Africans captured into slavery and shipped into America. This is why sometimes I get upset when you get to American embassy and they ask you, what are you going to do in America? You have shipped people's grandparents to your home country. Now they are going to visit them and they are asking them that, what are they going to do? When you are taking their grandparents away, didn't you know that their grandsons and daughters will wait for them? But that is one of the reasons. Internal migration. Then political and religious persecution. And in response to poverty and unemployment, and also when there is natural hazard, sometimes like landslide, earthquake. These are examples of natural hazard or flood. You may be forced to move from one place to another. Now let's look at migration in developed to develop activities. Throughout the last century, millions of people have moved from less developed to more developed destinations. For example, many people move from Mexico to the US. This has had implication for countries of origin and place of destination. Large numbers of workers from Southern Europe, the Middle East, North Africa, and elsewhere have moved to a highly developed and prosperous countries of Western and Central Europe. These migrants are known as guest workers. Don't call them refugees. So you see how they title them. They rather refer to them as guest workers. Can you imagine? And they would have given us unprintable titles. Illegal immigrant. The way I hate that phrase, illegal immigrant. I mean, how do you classify people as illegal immigrant? What of your people who are also in our part of the world? Okay, so unskilled labor is in short supply in much of it, partly because of low pay rates. Guest workers provide cheap labor force for European industries. Most guest workers take either low-paying, menial jobs or higher paying, but odious and dangerous ones. Some of them, they go and sit in fridges for 8 hours. You are killing your body cells. That's what is examples of odious and dangerous kind of jobs that some people go there to. So guest workers also migrate regularly between Southwest Asia, oil-rich countries such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The importance of thousands of guest workers from Jordan, Syria, Yemen, and other non-oil producing countries such as India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. Nearly half of Kuwait's population consists of guest workers. Wow. Policies discourage them from remaining for a longer period of time, and often it is difficult for them to attain citizenship in host countries. So what are the effects of international migration? International migration. There's a tendency for younger, more highly skilled and better educated people to migrate. Increases the dependency ratio in their home countries. So whilst there's brain drain, those of us who have attained skill want to leave, there is consequences on the home country. Children, elderly people, and disabled make up an increasingly large share of the population. See, those of us are here who are then when we leave, or market children become the aged, or basically they are the aged, they are the children and the disabled ones. And then children are often encouraged to work rather than go to school. Because those who are able to work, they have run away. They will have to leave the job. Then the negative consequences of high tendency or high dependency ratio are offset in some areas by wages sent back home. It is not always the negative aspect. From abroad, it helps. It helps a lot. The retired guest workers often return home with their pension and social security checks, where purchasing power is greater. Okay. Final, last but one, there is what is called brain drain. In fact, there's another concept called brown drain. Brain drain is when people who have skill migrate from one country to another in search of jobs and better life. But when those who do not have skill but depend on their physical strength, that one is called brown drain. Brown, and brown is coming from your shoulder, like ordinary a blue bag or beswa, cement bag or beswa, and table or beswa. Those are brown drain. Only certificate on call nursing really go teacher training. Only skill, only some you may be about ordinary thing. And a day, and your friend a brown drain. But when it falls skill and the drain, then that one becomes brain drain. So take notice of that. Take notice of that. Then we have what is called refugees. As for refugees, they are migrants who have moved in response to either religious or political persecution. A refugee is someone who is forced to leave his or her home country and who chooses not to return in fear of political or religious persecution. Today, most refugee migrants in less developed countries, there are a lot of them. When you go to, if you are going to Ghana Gas, Western region, there is a refugee camp there. When you come to Kaswa, there are refugee camps there. Refugee camps are all over the world. But the painful part is when they come, some of them, it's such places that is given to them. Later it becomes criminal hub, real base, ghettos, a whole lot. Like I told you from the beginning, I'm not against migration, but sometimes, cannot decipher between who is a genuine person and who is not. Okay. So we have what is called internal migration. Also, the first one we talked about was international. Then we have internal. The international is between two or more countries. But the internal, we are looking at what is within So important changes in an individual's lifestyle as he or she progresses through life cycle often result in migration. So marriage, childbirth, divorce, job or career changes, retirement, disability, and death of a spouse are primary examples. Since many major life changes are concentrated in young adults, those in other late teens, 20s, and 30s are far more likely to move than those in their 40s and 50s, like I told you earlier on. And then a secondary migration, the tendency to migrate occurs in late middle ages. Migration is often stimulated by retirement and the movement of young children away from homes. Okay, so that is that on population and that of migration. Uh, any question, contribution, submission? Yes. Abadexin, Atikra, Abednagu, Afia Laura, Aliba Samuel. This name sounds familiar. Adese, Chinipua, Augustina Manfo, Miss Magnesa, Pua Lawrence, Oseko. Uh, we have our rep here, Comfort, Ebenezer Yankson, Emmanuel Amwa, Emmanuel Asante, Enoch Salmon, Francis Akosia Jemai, George Atika, Grace, Isaac Kofiakwa James, Abande, Lord, one for Lucas Atanga, Miriam Ponsa, Hachima Millicent, Atichu, Obey Prince, Jose Solomon, Paul, Safe Truth, Prince Abredo, Prince Akanu, Prudence, Samuel Adusef, Kuku, Seth Kusikwe, Shamza, Hamza, Stephen, Edu, Stephen, Amankwate, Solomon, Tishos Kofi, Vivian, Afro, Joe Williams, Awusi, Yao, Manson, and Yvonne Abu. Merry Christmas to you all. Please, when you come across anything you don't understand, feel free and get in touch with me. Enjoy the rest.
Uh, um, please, colleagues, please, good afternoon.
Good
Good
afternoon.
afternoon.
Uh, please, I have placed a template on the platform, the economics and geography page. Please, the books will be distributed on Monday, like I said. So please, you check your name so that Mr. Emmanuel Amwa could go on with the distribution on Monday. So please, I'll add the EMS charges as well. But I want you to check your name for that Monday early morning. It could work on the distribution for you to receive your books within the week. Thank you.
And we need the slides as well, so the coordinator should do well and then get it for us from the lecture. Thank you.
Please, from Dr. Bode, having the books, he's not going to give the slides. So please, that's what he's saying.
Okay.